Just a warning to all the viewers of this video. This video is going to get a little deeper than it probably needs to be, but there's some interesting stuff going on here, man. So this is, I've heard of leniency in the system in Illinois. I mean, I've seen that firsthand, but this, man. So this is something that resonates strongly with me because I caught a similar case and I did not get the same leniency. This was when I was much younger. I'll talk about that later. But a man accused of nearly beating another passenger to death aboard a CTA Pink Line train, and this goes back to what I was saying about the danger on a CTA. He will not spend any time in prison after receiving a 2-year sentence. He received credit for more than a year that he spent on electronic monitoring while his case was pending. And his sentence was further reduced under Illinois law, which cuts prison terms in half for most charges. So when they give out 2-year sentences, okay, and you've been on a ban for a year, they're giving you no time because 50% reduction, and then every day that you spend on that ban is considered a day in their custody. Now, this is for state, not feds. For feds, it doesn't work like that. I tried to do that, and it doesn't work like that. So just know that. I mean, if you are catching a state case, you should do this. I mean, you tell your lawyer, like, put me on a ban. Tell them to put me on a ban. You can actually do this. You're going to request it. My friend did this. He caught a case for like some little, and while he was waiting, he asked his lawyer. He's like, well, the lawyer knew about this trick, and he's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna ask the judge to put you on a ban. So he spent, like, I forget how long it was, like a year and a half or something like that, waiting before the trial came. By the time the trial came, he didn't care if he beat the case or not, because when the judge handed out the sentence, he just dressed in and dressed out. All his time was served on that ban. And this wasn't a house arrest either. Like, he had some range he had to stay in, but, like, it wasn't like federal house arrest where you can't even leave the room, that I was on. So anyways, man, he spent more than a year on electronic monitoring while his case was pending, and prosecutors said that he and a 37-year-old man from Cicero did not know each other. They crossed paths aboard a Pink Line train near the Polk station on April 10th of 2024. The two exchanged words, and the situation turned physical, according to a Chicago police report. So investigators said that he kicked and punched the victim repeatedly in the face and body. And by the way, this guy's name is Jesus Ramirez. He kicked and punched him repeatedly in the face and body, continuing the assault even after the man was lying motionless on the floor of the train. So this could have been attempted murder. Okay, he's motionless. He's not moving, and he continues the assault. Surveillance cameras recorded the entire attack, so the victim suffered catastrophic injuries. Court records said that he spent about a week in a coma and roughly 2 months hospitalized with a scattered brain bleed, traumatic brain injury, broken ribs, a temporal bone fracture, ear damage, and a fractured nasal bone. So this could have been, like, honestly, a 20-year sentence. During an early court appearance, the judge, who is Ankur Srivastava, I'm sorry for the Indians watching this video, I can't pronounce that name right, described the incident by stating that Ramirez nearly beat the victim to death on the CTA. So the Chicago police released surveillance images of the attacker about a month after the attack, but detectives ultimately broke the case by using a combination of technology and an analysis of Ramirez's unique tattoos. Okay, now this is the part that I'm going to get into deep a little bit later. So according to a police report, a detective fed CTA video images through facial recognition software to generate potential leads and arranged an in-person meeting with Ramirez based on those results. During the meeting, detectives confirmed his identity by matching his tattoos to the attackers. And he had some unique tattoos. So anyways, a CPD report described Ramirez's tattoos as including images of Jesus and the Virgin Mary dead, 2 skeletons in a coffin, a girl kissing Dia de los Muertos on the neck, and a pentagram on his hand, and also a Pink Floyd logo, and a depiction of a dissected woman on his lower left arm. So the pentagram, as you guys know, is the symbol of satanic cults. It's a symbol of people that worship the devil. He was initially detained on the Cook County Jail on the charges, but the judge, Tyria Walton, released him on an ankle monitor about 3 months later. So by the time he pled guilty to aggravated battery, he had accrued 581 days of credit because of that ban, more than enough to offset the prison time that the judge handed down. According to court records, I can't believe this sentence was this low, man. He had no criminal record in Cook County before being arrested in the CTA attack. Okay, so check this out. when I was 18, I caught a case, right? Now, I never touched the guy. Okay, we didn't even touch. This took place inside of it was an argument. It took place inside of a boys' locker room or a men's locker room at a pool. Neither of us fought. Like, there was no punches thrown, no nothing. They came through charging me with aggravated battery, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon because I had a pocket knife on me. He testified I never touched him. Their only witness to this crime was a girl, and it took place inside of the men's locker room. Okay, so this case was like totally beatable, but where it should have been beatable. The system is what it is, and like I wasn't going to go up against the system, so I took a plea deal, but I never touched this dude. Okay, and I was facing 7 years for that. I didn't end up doing 7, but I was facing 7 years for that. This is when I was 18. Okay, now this is for not where I never touched the guy. This dude puts the guy in a coma, almost kills him. He has a brain bleed, and this dude walks free that same day. And he's not on probation, nothing. So check this out, man. Okay, now as far as the satanic symbols that he has, so there's a couple people that rep that. One are atheists, okay, and when I made that video about the atheist guys that were shooting up the churches or the schools or whatever, I had some atheists in the comment section saying, atheists can't be satanic because we don't believe in the devil. Okay, in a way, but there's an atheist organization that refers to themselves as like the Church of Satan. Okay, so they use these satanic symbols. And I'm not saying all atheists do this, but I mean, that is a popular thing among atheists who use like satanic imagery and satanic symbols. The majority of atheists, at least the ones that I've encountered, are vehemently anti-religion in general, but specifically anti-Christian. Okay, so the devil being the enemy of God and Jesus, they use that. Okay, now do they actually believe that the devil really exists? No, but nevertheless, they use this satanic stuff. So when the atheists in my comment section were saying it's ridiculous that Christians accuse us of being satanic, bro, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, people are going to call it what it is. I mean, if you're using satanic symbols, people are going to refer to you as satanic. That's a reasonable expectation. Now, the other group, obviously, are people that actually worship the devil. And for a long time, I've been surprised at the prevalence of this actually among Latin Americans. A lot of Mexican guys, that I've seen have this. For people that don't know, and for people that are just totally, uneducated about religion, this comes from Abrahamic monotheistic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Okay, Christians, Jews, and Muslims, and I think some other religions too. I'm not familiar with every single religion, but I know pretty much all monotheistic religions believe that humans have two components. We have a soul and we have a body. Before humans were created, there was another race of beings created that only have a soul. They're just pure spirit. And, these are colloquially referred to as angels, but that's actually inaccurate because in Judaic theology, there's actually many different orders of these spirits, and only one of them are actually called angels. But anyways, they were given a choice, okay, just like humans were given a choice, to either choose good or evil, to choose God or reject God's sovereignty. God's sovereignty is good, and rejecting him is evil. One of them corrupted the wisdom that he had been taught by God, from love to pride, from unselfishness to selfishness. And he was the first one to basically reject God and to rebel against him, and he's known as Satan. Okay, so he became basically like the first one to resist or reject goodness and truth and beauty and wisdom, and to instead invent pride and hate and evil and greed and all these other negative things. Christians especially obviously believe that most people who are following him are not doing so willingly or wittingly. They do this basically like subconsciously, through giving into various temptations. And there's a certain degree of blindness that sets in, especially with the conscience. When a person ignores their conscience the first time, slowly it becomes numb and blind, and they end up doing things that previously would have horrified them, but they no longer feel that same pain of conscience that they felt at first, because that conscience goes away over time. So, at least in Christianity, part of Christian spiritual practice, one of the first tasks is to resensitize the conscience. And this is something that Christians refer to as contrition, or sorrow for one's sins. And that, this is a painful process, because breaking the addiction to selfishness and greed and pride and all that stuff is just like breaking any other addiction. It's not fun. Most people give up in the beginning, in the early days, after their conversion, and just lose their faith or become atheists, because their conscience has not been resensitized. They can't see why stuff is wrong, and they can't see why stuff is hurting other people or is disrespectful or anything like that. Their conscience is still blind. And so they feel like this constant practice of contrition, of trying to repent and feel sorry for what one is doing, is just oppressive. It's just cruel, it's just mean, and it's just ruining their fun. Because again, they can't see what they used to be when they were innocent. They've forgotten that conscience has gone away and become blind. So, they typically end up giving up. They also typically see God in a different way than the people who persevere see him. They see him as like a genie who's there to grant them wishes, and they ask for stuff that wouldn't be to their spiritual benefit at all. It's all selfish stuff, and when he doesn't give it to them, they just lose their faith and go away. The Satan worshipers, they basically do everything the opposite of what Christians do. They value pleasure and pride and greed and selfishness and everything that Christians reject. And their concept of love is the polar opposite of Christians' concept of love. The Satan worshipers see love as basically a emotional or psychological attachment to a source of pleasure. So it's completely selfish. This person gives them pleasure, so they quote unquote love them. But as soon as that pleasure stops or goes away, that love ends, and it's a completely conditional kind of love. The unselfish, sacrificial love that Christians idealize is seen by them as cruel and boring and just harsh, and something that they want to have nothing to do with. So they basically are hedonists in a way. They worship pleasure, and they believe that the devil will facilitate their experience of pleasure. Pleasure is the highest existential, aspiration that they have. They believe that that's the meaning of life, is to experience pleasure. Their highest goal, as far as why they're here and what their purpose is just their next orgasm, their next meal, their next paycheck, whatever it might be. It's all selfish. They have a lot of rituals. They perform human sacrifice. A lot of them were getting booked because of the murders that they were committing, because of the human sacrifice rituals, and so they instead started practicing ritual abortion as their human sacrifice instead of killing adults. And the way they do this, they have the ritual, they get a girl pregnant, and then however many months later, they perform the abortion, and then they actually do a bunch of stuff that's too nasty for me to talk about, but it's like a disrespectful ritual to blaspheme Christianity, and it's considered human sacrifice by them that pleases the devil. Man, I've done some stories on some guys that have committed murders behind this before. I don't know if he's a worshiper of the devil because he has those tattoos, or if he used to be, or if he's an atheist that just uses those symbols, or what. But the prevalence of this in Latin America, man, is something that's really shocking. Any Latinos that know people that do this, you can let me know in the comment section, man. But most of the Satan worshipers that I've met, they think that they're going to be like fellow rulers with Satan in the abyss. They think that he's out for their good, that he's their homie. The women especially, they think that he sees them as their queen. And it's a really interesting phenomenon, man. The Christians, Jews, and Muslims refer to the devil as the deceiver and the father of lies. And the way that we see Satan worshipers conceptualizing him basically confirms that. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section, man. This is your boy Shy News. I'm out.